Forget everything you know. Iran didn't warn Israel out of aggression. It warned out of purpose. A single phrase changed the conversation. New surprises are coming. The world paused, and urgency filled the air. This wasn't the kind of warning filled with empty threats or routine rhetoric. It was something deeper, sharper, and far more unsettling. Because for decades, Iran's confrontations have been predictable. A strike met with a strike, a word met with a word. But this time it chose silence wrapped in mystery, leaving only a chilling promise. And in that moment, it wasn't missiles or speeches that shook the region. It was uncertainty. The phrase carried more weight than any declaration of war. Leaders scrambled behind closed doors, analysts filled television screens with speculation, and intelligence agencies doubled their surveillance. What could these surprises mean? A new weapon, a bold move on the battlefield, or something far more subtle, yet equally disruptive? The ambiguity itself became a weapon. For Israel, it was a challenge that couldn't be ignored. For the United States, it was a reminder that even the most powerful alliances couldn't predict every move. And for the rest of the world, it was a clear message: Iran isn't playing by the old rules anymore. When a nation warns not with threats, but with mystery, it creates a power of its own. And on that night, Iran didn't just warn Israel, it warned the world. Iran's warning that new surprises are coming wasn't just a statement, it was a calculated move to shift the psychological balance of power. In global politics, predictability often brings stability. Nations and their adversaries rely on patterns, intelligence, and historical behavior to anticipate the next step. But when a country suddenly embraces unpredictability, it forces the world into a state of uncertainty. And uncertainty is often more frightening than any weapon. By not revealing what these surprises were, Iran placed itself in control of the narrative. Its rivals, particularly Israel and its Western allies, could no longer prepare for a known threat. Instead, they had to prepare for every possible scenario. That alone created tension, pressure, and sleepless nights in war rooms across the world. Diplomats scrambled to interpret the phrase, military analysts debated possible meanings, and intelligence agencies increased surveillance in every direction. This was a demonstration that power isn't always about missiles or armies. Sometimes, it lies in the ability to make your adversaries question what you might do next. Iran understood that by introducing ambiguity, it could multiply the effect of its message without firing a single shot. The statement also resonated with ordinary people worldwide, sparking fear, speculation, and endless debates. Suddenly, the question was not if Iran would act, but how and when. That doubt itself became a weapon, heavier than iron, sharper than steel. Through this move, Iran showed that unpredictability is not weakness, but strategy. By refusing to reveal its hand, it turned silence into leverage and mystery into influence. And in the game of global power, sometimes the most dangerous move is the one nobody sees coming. When Iran declared that new surprises are coming, it wasn't a random threat. It was a carefully constructed warning layered with strategy. Unlike impulsive statements often seen in politics, this phrase was deliberate, designed to send a message to multiple audiences at once. For adversaries like Israel and the West, it served as a reminder that Iran's capabilities extend beyond what the world assumes. For allies and regional supporters, it was a rallying call, reinforcing the idea that Iran remains bold, confident, and unshaken. What made the warning so powerful was its ambiguity. Iran didn't specify whether these surprises would be military, technological, diplomatic, or even cyber in nature. That uncertainty forced its opponents into a defensive position. If Israel prepares for a military strike, but the surprise comes in the form of economic disruption or advanced drone technology, then resources are wasted. If the West braces for diplomacy, but the move is cyber warfare, then once again, they are caught off guard. In this way, Iran's choice of words became a weapon in itself. Strategically, it also shifted the global conversation. Instead of talking about Iran's past actions, the focus suddenly turned toward the unknown future. Media headlines, political debates, and international analysis revolved around what Iran might do, not what it had already done. This gave Tehran control over the global narrative. Without spending money, without firing missiles, and without lifting a single soldier. At its core, the warning was about balance. Iran understood that it could not match its adversaries dollar for dollar in military spending or technology, but through strategy, timing, and ambiguity, it could make the world listen. And in global power struggles, Sometimes the greatest strength lies not in speaking loudly, but in making silence feel like thunder. When Iran uttered the phrase, "New surprises are coming," it struck deeper than a military threat. It attacked the psychology of its adversaries. Israel, already on edge, thrives on preparation and control. But the ambiguity of Iran's words made that control slip. For Israel, the idea that it couldn't predict the next move was just as unsettling as the move itself. Suddenly, every possibility felt dangerous: a missile strike, a cyber attack, or even diplomatic isolation engineered by Iran. This uncertainty spreads like wildfire. In military strategy, fear of the unknown forces nations to overextend resources. Israel and its Western allies are now compelled to prepare for multiple scenarios at once, draining focus, money, and manpower. In many ways, this is psychological warfare at its finest. Iran didn't have to show weapons or reveal new technology. Instead, it planted a seed of doubt that grew into fear, and that fear itself became a weapon. On the global stage, this warning also had ripple effects. Markets react to tension, and so do foreign policies. Even the mere possibility of new surprises was enough to make analysts re-examine alliances, redraw strategies, and recalculate risks. The power of Iran's warning wasn't just in its words, but in the anticipation it created. Like a chess player who moves a single pawn to force the opponent into rethinking their entire game plan, Iran shifted the mental battlefield without firing a single shot. The brilliance of this tactic lies in its simplicity. Psychological pressure does not cost money or lives, yet it can weaken even the strongest powers. And in that moment, Israel and the West were not facing an army. They were facing uncertainty. That is the kind of warfare that lingers long after the words have been spoken. When Iran declared, "New surprises are coming," it wasn't just a warning to Israel. It was a statement to the entire Middle East and beyond. For decades, the balance of power in the region has been tilted toward US-backed nations, with Israel holding the image of military superiority. But Iran's carefully chosen words challenged that narrative. It signaled that the old order, where decisions and dominance came from Washington or Tel Aviv, could no longer be taken for granted. By framing itself as a nation capable of dictating the pace of events, Iran shifted how regional players saw the battlefield. Arab states, many of which have uneasy ties with both Iran and Israel, suddenly realized that Tehran's influence extended beyond missiles and borders. It reached into the realm of strategy and perception. The ability to unsettle Israel without firing a shot showed a different kind of strength, one that questioned who really controls the tempo of conflict. This change in dynamics also mattered to global powers. The United States and Europe, used to managing Middle Eastern crises on their terms, were forced to acknowledge that Iran could now steer the conversation. Instead of reacting to Western warnings, the world was reacting to Iran's words. That is a profound shift because it flips the hierarchy of influence. More importantly, the warning resonated with those who have long felt overshadowed by Western dominance. To them, Iran's move wasn't just defiance. It was proof that power can be claimed, not granted. And in that moment, Iran wasn't simply a player on the board. It was the one shaking the board itself, forcing every piece, ally and enemy alike, to recalculate their positions. When Iran announced, "New surprises are coming," the message didn't stop at Israel's borders. Its echo stretched far beyond the Middle East, unsettling global capitals and forcing governments to rethink their strategies. This was more than a regional warning. It was a global signal that the balance of power is shifting, and no one can afford to ignore it. In Washington, policymakers understood immediately that Iran's warning could complicate US alliances and military strategies. Every American move in the Middle East suddenly carried the risk of triggering one of those surprises. For European nations, heavily reliant on regional stability for energy and trade, the message raised fears of escalation that could disrupt global markets. Even in Asia, where powers like China and India maintain close ties with Iran, the warning was read as a reminder that Tehran's influence can't be underestimated. The ripple effect extended to international organizations and media narratives. Headlines around the world captured Iran's words, sparking debates about what those surprises might mean: cyber attacks, regional proxies, or advanced weaponry. This speculation alone put Iran in control of the global conversation, a rare position for any nation outside of the West. Most importantly, the psychological impact was undeniable. By keeping the world guessing, Iran created a strategic advantage without firing a single missile. That uncertainty forced adversaries to prepare for scenarios they could not fully predict, an exhausting and costly process. The ripple effect also empowered nations and groups who have long felt overshadowed by Western dominance. To them, Iran's stance represented defiance and autonomy, proof that smaller players could unsettle even the most powerful alliances. And in that sense, Iran's warning wasn't just regional theater. It was a reminder that the game itself had changed, and the world would have to play by new rules. The world has heard Iran speak, not through endless statements, but through a single, chilling phrase: "New surprises are coming." That sentence alone has reshaped conversations in capitals, war rooms, and boardrooms across the globe. It was not a boast. It was not a threat. It was a declaration of presence, a reminder that Iran cannot be sidelined or underestimated. From the calculated silence of its leaders to the ripple effects shaking world markets, Iran has shown that true power is not always about firepower. It is about timing, perception, and the ability to shift the global stage with just a few words. Every nation now waits, uncertain, cautious, and watchful. And in that uncertainty lies Iran's greatest leverage. This is no longer just about regional politics. This is about a message to the entire world. Dominance is no longer uncontested, and the balance of power is no longer fixed. Iran's warning has left a mark that will not fade soon, because when a nation can make the world pause, when it can turn silence into fear and words into strategy, it proves that the rules have changed forever. The world is watching, the players are nervous, and as Iran promised, the next move will not be expected. So stay with us, because this is just the beginning. History is unfolding before our eyes, and the story of new surprises is far from over.